Hey everybody, this is Rob from Revelation Rain, coming at you with yet another video where we go through each of the tracks on our most recent CD, which is called Day of the Lord. You can see part of the album cover right there. We released that CD in April of this year, and it's done very well for us. And we think it was a vast, huge improvement over the first record. Not that the first one was bad, we think the first record was excellent. But that first album, just so that everyone knows, we recorded that album probably about 6 weeks after we had a completed lineup. That's how quickly we moved. By the time we did the second record, we'd been together for just under a year, so we had more time to acclimate to each other. We had more time to write new songs. We had more time to work on arrangements. And when we went into the studio, Marti and Pete Bass, the guy that produced the record for us, had come up with some really cool recording techniques, including some different miking techniques, which just augmented the sound on this new CD. Not to mention that we took more time with it, not just in the recording process, but also when we did the mixing. Once we did the mixing, we knew that we wanted to expound on some different sounds and take a little more time on backing vocals and on the arrangements and what have you. So anyway, I've been going through each of the tracks on this CD, and today we're going to talk about track 9, which, again, in terms of an album, which is how we like to think of things, it would be track 2, side 2. Side 2, track 2. Samson, the Lion Killer. Actually, the actual title is Samson, Part 1, the Lion Killer. Okay? And this was a song that Marti brought to the band. He had all of the music worked out, all the arrangements and the chords and everything. He had it all put together. And typical Marti, it had some, twists and turns to it, and of course a fantastic bass line going all the way through the song, which meant that the guitars, namely JT, had to play catch up and try to figure out what Marti's going to do next, and then transcribe that stuff and put it into guitar form. And JT did an excellent job doing that. I pretty much just mimic what JT was playing, just kind of doubling what he's doing. And then, of course, that means that Grant has to work double time to put some drum tracks to it. But it all worked out. I think we spent probably 2 or 3 rehearsals working on new material, and a lot of that was devoted to Samson. And when Marti initially brought it in, he had all of the music and the arrangements, like I said, but he also had the title. And he said that it was going to be Samson, Part 1, the Lion Killer. And he said he wanted to eventually make a Part 2 and a Part 3. It'd be like a trilogy of songs. And, each part would deal with a different aspect of Samson's life. And the first part, the Lion Killer, would talk about, his exploits as a young man. Okay? And so with that, we see these great things. If you know the story of Samson, you see how he slayed an army that defiled the land. He was one of the judges of Israel. He did some good stuff, but he also had some weaknesses, namely the lust of the flesh. And worse, he was chasing after a Philistine. And God had said to stay away from them, but Samson didn't listen, and we all know the result of that. So anyway, when he gave me the title, obviously that narrows it down to, a certain aspect, a certain story in the Bible to write the lyrics around. He asked me to write the lyrics to it. And so I went home and kind of refreshed my memory on some of the aspects of Samson's life. And once I had the 2 main themes that I wanted to deal with, 1, the positive stuff that he was doing, and then 2, the negative stuff, namely Delilah, that he was getting involved with, that set the pace. And then putting it together lyrically, even though a lot of what Samson did was good, sometimes it wasn't for the right reasons. Okay? Excuse me. I think we've all been guilty of that sometimes. If you have an ulterior motive, or you're doing something good because you want a pat on the back. I've talked about this on some of my other channels. People who will do a good deed while filming it and then put it up on Facebook. Absolutely disgraceful. Do not expect any reward in heaven for that. You did it for the wrong reason. And Samson was like that. A lot of the time, when he did something, it was out of arrogance or out of anger. And not to say that you can't do good things out of anger. There is a such thing as righteous anger. Absolutely. But if you're doing it just purely based on anger or hatred, your motives could be questionable. And a lot of times, Samson was very arrogant. He knew he was the strongest man in the land, okay? And instead of glorifying God or giving thanks to God for that ability, for that strength, I think sometimes he saw it as kind of an entitlement. Boy, we could go on forever about entitlements, but I think Samson almost felt sometimes that he was entitled to that strength, and I think that's why he didn't give enough credit to God and enough, thanks to God for that. So in the song, it'll say things like, how Samson, from Samson's perspective, he made the angel fall, he made the angel fly, almost as though Samson believes that he's second in command right behind God, and that's a bad attitude to have. But he did do some good stuff. When the Philistines would come in and invade Israel, he took them out, by himself. So he did good stuff. Sometimes it wasn't for the right reasons, but a lot of times he did bad things, knowing that he was doing something bad. But it's still an interesting story when you talk about Samson. And so it was kind of cool that Marti wanted to focus on this biblical character, this historical figure. And so the lyrics came together pretty quickly once I had, like I said, the two aspects that I wanted to cover. And with all the different changes in the song, it made for an interesting arrangement lyrically, because you'll have a couple of verses and then not even a chorus yet, but like a pre-chorus or a bridge. Okay, or actually what we called it was like chorus one. We had two different choruses. That's how it went down. So you'd have two verses and then chorus one, a couple more verses and then a chorus two, guitar solo, into chorus one, back into chorus two. Interesting arrangement. So the song came together really nicely once we had all the musical parts down, the arrangements down, and then I brought the lyrics in, and Marti was pleased with those. So once we had all those components in place, the song came together really nicely. Marti asked me to sing it, so I did. It's a really good song, and I remember when we were in the studio recording it. Now, actually, once we had the song recorded, I think we're just going through and doing some overdubs. And I remember being in the control room with Pete Bass and Marti, and listening back to the song and thinking, this sounds really good, but you know what? I really wish that JT would have sang this song. I just think that his voice would have fit the tone and the lyrics to that song much better. And plus, he's more of the Samson type. He's got that deep voice, and if I picture Samson, I don't picture him singing like me. I would picture Samson, if he was singing a song, it'd be, gravelly and deep and scary, like JT. So, in retrospect, and even at that point, I wished that JT would have sang the song, but that's okay. It still turned out great. I don't think I suck on the song. I think it turned out really good. I think it sounds great. But yeah, in retrospect, you always see things like that. But it's placed right after Crown of Thorns because, again, you want that 1-2 punch. You got side 2 starting off. You start off with a really strong track like Crown of Thorns. You got to follow that up. You want to keep people going through side 2 because the theory is, and a lot of times it's true, is people will load up side 1 and then side 2 is just, filler. Once in a while you might get, a track or two that's decent, but a lot of times bands will load up side one, and when you get to side two, it's kind of like, you know, this is junk. You might as well just, turn the record over and play side one again. We didn't want that. We wanted for every song to be the best that it could be, that any song could be a single, that any song could be anywhere on the record. But yeah, it's important to have your placing. We wanted to start side two off with, a 1-2 punch of really hard hitting songs. And as we'll see in the next video, it was great because we actually ended up with a 1-2-3 punch of really hard hitting songs. And putting Samson as track 2 on side 2 was a stroke of genius on our part, I think, because it's the perfect placement, because it's the strong follow up to Crown of Thorns, but it also is the perfect lead-in to the next track, which we'll talk about in the next video. That's important. There's a continuity between those 3 tracks. And then it kind of changes up a little bit, and we'll talk about that eventually, because then the record kind of shifts directions again. But anyway, the song is a song. We've done the song live quite a few times, and it's always gone over really well. People love upbeat, hard-hitting tracks like that. Crown of Thorns, Revelation Rain, Samson, and some of the other songs. People that like heavier type music gravitate toward those. And the great thing about this album is that without compromising our sound, the Revelation Rain sound, we cover a lot of ground as far as styles on this album. I've talked before how we have a couple of ballads on here. We have some songs that kind of have a pop edge to it, such as We Are the Night, and a couple other ones that I'll talk about in future videos. We have those hard-hitting ones like Holy and Revelation Rain, and some other ones that are coming up. So the record has really a little bit of something for everybody, but without pandering to anyone. We're not looking to compromise our sound just to gain a few new fans. It wasn't about that at all. It's just that we all come from different backgrounds musically, so all of those influences obviously show up on the record, and yet they fit together really well. Look, you can have chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, strawberry ice cream, and they all taste differently, and everybody likes one of those as their favorite. But at the end of the day, all 3 are still ice cream. Okay, so it's not like you have chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and then a can of carrots. Okay, it wasn't anything like that. So it's a great song, and again, it's just another example of on this record, because we had more time and the band had more time to grow, JT and Marti were bringing a lot of great material to this record, and it's a more well-rounded album, more fleshed out, and it shows the diversity that exists within this band. And everybody brought something to this record. Not that everyone didn't bring something to the first one. Everybody did. It's just that a lot of those songs on the first record were songs that I had, been accumulating and writing over years and years and years. And because Grant and I had already been playing those songs for a while, when JT and Marti came into the band, it just made sense to go forward with those songs. But even there, and I'll talk about the first record in some future videos, even then, with a majority of those songs being mine, we wanted to ensure that there was some diversity, that everybody was going to be represented on this album. So we dropped 2 of my tracks because JT and Marti had each brought in really strong tracks that belonged on that first album. But it was basically, JT and Marti each brought a track into the record, and then the other 8 were mine. And it still made for a great album, but the second one was much more fleshed out. I don't know the exact numbers. I don't care. But I just know that all of us were bringing songs to this record, and you'll see the diversity. If you get the CD, the physical copy, inside there's a booklet, 8-page booklet with all the lyrics, and it also has all the songwriting credits, who's singing each song, who's playing which instrument on each song, and then any guest vocals, backing vocalists that we had. And I kind of glossed over that, and I guess I I didn't intend to, but songs like Holy, there's guest vocals on that. Pete Bass was doing some backing vocals for us. We Are the Night, we had Pete Bass again doing some backing vocals for us. Plus, we were going in and doubling and tripling our vocals to give it that gang chorus type sound. You need it for a song like that. And I remember JT's daughter ended up doing some vocals on one of the upcoming tracks that I'll talk about. So we were bringing a lot more to the table this time, and it just made for a better sounding album. But if you get the actual physical CD, you can read those credits, and you'll see just how much we were putting into each song. The instrumentation, the way the vocals are set up, and who wrote which songs. You'll see that all of us were bringing songs to this record, and all of us were singing leads, and all of us were doing backing vocals, and you can see all of that. It's great stuff. So that's Samson the Lion Killer. Again, if you want to buy the CD, Day of the Lord, if you want a physical copy, email revelationrainonline@yahoo.com. If you're more of the digital route, whether it's streaming or downloading, it's available on over 150 different digital platforms. Go to your favorite one, whether it's iTunes or Amazon or Spotify or what's the other one? Pandora, whatever it may be. Go there, you'll find the album. You'll find the first album there too. We did both albums through CD Baby. We recorded both albums at Soundfield Studio with Pete Bass producing on Atonement Records, which is just something that we set up so that the album would be produced and recorded and handled by us. But the distribution was through CD Baby for both CDs. And on the first album, the first CD, Vengeance Is Mine, we also got that one printed up, or pressed, I should say, to vinyl. So you can actually buy vinyl copies of Vengeance Is Mine if you're one of those people that loves vinyl. I am. I know Grant is. Marti is. So we got that one printed up or pressed to vinyl through a company called Digger's Factory. They're based in France, actually. But if you want, I keep talking about if you want this Day of the Lord CD, but actually if you want Vengeance Is Mine on CD, or if you want Vengeance Is Mine on vinyl album, that same email address, revelationrainonline@yahoo.com. You can get all three different there's two formats, but over the two records. You know what I mean? Anything that you want. Day of the Lord on CD, Vengeance Is Mine on CD, or Vengeance Is Mine on vinyl, revelationrainonline@yahoo.com. We'll get it sent out to you. Day of the Lord is only $10. Vengeance Is Mine is only $10. If you want it on vinyl, it's $25, which is a steal. Go to Walmart sometime and price out their vinyl. Trust me, you're getting a good deal on this one. So anyway, guys, thank you again for tuning in. I encourage you also, it's not showing now, but when I first start these videos, I stand in front of the big screen here, and I always have our Revelation Rain YouTube channel pulled up. And I encourage you to go there, not just to watch these videos. There's a ton of other videos on there, live shows that we've done, live streams that we've done, music videos. Go to our YouTube channel and please subscribe and leave comments. And please like and share the videos. We want to get this stuff out there. It's not just because we're a band and we want to be popular or that we want to sell stuff and make money. I'm not going to deny that. Look, there's nothing wrong with capitalism, okay? It is the best form of economic system you'll ever find, period. So I'm all about capitalism, making money, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to have some, popularity and be well known. There's nothing wrong with that. But our main thrust is to win people to Christ. That's why we are a Christian rock band. That's why our songs talk about Jesus, talk about salvation, talk about the end times, talk about the repercussions of not being saved. That is what we're doing first and foremost. Hand to God, that's what we do. And that's why we keep Christ at the center of this band. And I tell you, in the year and a couple of months that we've been together, We've gone more places than most local bands will do in 5 years. And that's not being arrogant, that's just being honest. We've been on radio stations, we've done live streams, live shows, we've been in publications all around the world. We've released 2 full-length CDs, one of which is also on vinyl. We just do as much as we can. And I tell you what, our stage show and our image is second to none. Absolutely. We are a band playing, at a local level, but bringing in a show that would do pretty well in an arena. And we continue and look to always improve upon that. Anyway, I'm off on tangents. That's what I do. All right, guys. Samson, Part 1, The Lion Killer. And by the way, Marty is still working on Samson Part 2. Okay? So maybe that'll come up in the future sometime. All right, guys. Take care and God bless.